We got a different kind of top 5 today.
What?
Today on Top 5 Friday, I'm going to tell you the top 5 reasons to sell your fragrances. Plot twist! Welcome back to J-ROYL, everyone. My name is James. This is Top 5 Friday. We do top 5s every Friday, and they're fragrance related because fragrances are pretty cool. But I think I'm gonna sell mine, and I got 5 good reasons to do so. The number 5 reason to sell your fragrances is you want to make a bit of a profit. Sometimes you can flip fragrances, buy them at a pretty good price, and sell them for a little bit more. I've done it a few times where I got some really great deals on some bulk purchases and was able to sell them off individually for a bit of a profit. It's only my number 5 reason to sell your fragrance because it's actually pretty hard to make profit off a bottle unless you're selling decants. Then that's a totally different story. My number 4 reason to sell your fragrances is backup bottles. Sometimes you can find yourself with way too many backup bottles. Like me. If you recall in the near past, is that a thing? Near future, near past? I did a video on backup bottles, so I won't go into too much detail. However, sometimes once you've accumulated a few backup bottles and then you've accumulated all kinds of other fragrances, you'll find that you'll go through each bottle pretty slowly. And sometimes you'll never even touch those backup bottles because you're preoccupied with other fragrances. Sometimes backup bottles are great if you have vintages or you just know you're gonna blast through a certain fragrance. But if you're like me and you buy 3 200ml bottles of La Nuit de l'Homme and then you have hundreds of other fragrances you can try on as well, you got some dust collectors over there. Backup bottles. Don't just buy for the sake of buying things. My number 3 reason to sell your fragrances. Redundant fragrances. Redundant fragrances are essentially juices that have strong similarities to other juices. Now, for the most part, no 2 fragrances are exactly the same, even when we're talking about clones. But really, how many powdery rose fragrances does a guy need? If you really want to be smart about collecting, to lean out your collection a bit, have one of each of your favorite kinds of fragrances. And although that doesn't sound like a lot, you can get pretty detailed with it. You can have your favorite vanillic amber fragrance. You can have your favorite smoky pineapple fragrance. You can have your favorite sauvage kind of fragrance. And then that way, when you're craving a certain note or a certain accord, you know exactly which bottle to go to. Redundant fragrances. Do you really need Dior Homme Eau and Prada L'Homme? My number 2 reason to sell your fragrances. They're gross. Gross fragrances can either mean maybe your good fragrance went bad, or a fragrance you used to like now kind of grosses you out because your nose has developed, or perhaps it has a really awful scent memory attached to it. But most commonly for me, the gross fragrances I sell are blind buys gone wrong. Most notably Fahrenheit 32. As soon as I bought that, I was so excited with the cool white presentation, but I hated the smell. I flipped it for a bit of a loss, but I was so happy to get it out of my collection. It was a huge W for me. And now finally, the number 1 reason to sell your fragrances. When real life starts to take over, we can sort of lose sight on how much of our income we're actually spending on these juices. And if you know how fast my collection has grown, you know I know that. That being said, if you are aware of it and you're cool with that amount of money, then why not, spend away. For some of us less fortunate people, sometimes real life happens. Sometimes you experience a bit of a crisis situation where you need some extra flow, some extra funds, and you gotta liquidate some of your nice niche bottles. This is my number 1 reason to sell your fragrance because real life should take precedence over your hobby. There's a very fine line of a hobby versus an addiction. You always want to be in control, and when you can no longer do that, or if more important things in your life take over, that's usually for a reason. But you gotta get our priorities in order, because otherwise, these wonderful guys are gonna take a bit of a trip to the land of eBay. Kind of a new top 5 idea, everyone. Although I deviated from bottles 5 to 1, I thought this was an interesting top 5 idea, and I hope you guys did too. Bit of a top 5 Friday J-Talk fusion. Ha! Name that show! All of our links to the Facebook group, Snapchat, and Instagram are down below. And if you like what you see, and you haven't already, please subscribe.
Please clap.
See you on Monday.